Hi there, this is Conversations for Men That Women Need to Hear. I'm here with Zealous Daniel. I'm Angeline Chu Longshore, and this is sponsored by Chew on This Media LLC and Visualize Unlimited LLC. Today we're talking about postpartum women in this modern day relationship. I never really thought about it as a thing, but then Zealous and I started talking, and it affects a lot in a relationship. So let's get to it. We are talking about postpartum women because behavior changes when a woman gets hormonal. It affects so much. Do you want to jump in here, or should I just talk a little bit about what's going on?
Yeah, I think, we were also mentioned too the prepartum that men go through, and I think there's a whole dynamic that happens when you are a couple and you get pregnant and the woman is really excited to have children. My partner certainly was. She had wanted children for a long time and wasn't sure she was going to be able to have them, so she was very excited about having kids, and I was a little scared, I'll be honest, just jumping into it. But it was like, okay, we're going into this brave new world. This is going to be a good thing. And um, and then once you have the child and your whole life shifts, then a few months later there starts to become this postpartum, and I think it was really hard for me to even kind of understand, because it's like you've gotten this thing that you've wanted so badly, that is such a beautiful thing that just and undeniably enriches your life tremendously. In her life, it was like, it wasn't that I couldn't fathom why she would be depressed, because we talk about postpartum. You do your birthing classes, and it's a common thing. We know it's real, and it's hard to like figure out why that happens. For a man to be like, you know, you got this child that you want, that you have this wonderful experience of nursing and feeding it, and yeah, we're running on low sleep, but I think that I found a new happiness that was simplified and wonderful, and that's a big part of having children. um, and so yeah, it's very confusing for men. And
Mm-hmm.
yet we know the science behind it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just want to say that a lot of times there are men, probably you out there, if you have a child and if you've been through this with your wife or a partner, that you feel somewhat silenced in what you can say because you know that she is
Absolutely.
hormonal. And so a lot of the themes that we talk about are the silencing of men because they have to tippy toe around this woman for whatever reason. And this particular situation, it's a hormonal surge. So it's nobody's fault, and we all just find ourselves in this situation. But I think it's really important for us to talk about this because then we can unpack it of why women go through this pre postpartum and men too, and then the during the pregnancy and then afterwards, where I can tell you what happened with my husband and all of that happened. That is so interesting that it's I think it's really important to share because a lot of times men feel like I gotta just
We
like
can't talk.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you want to say something?
No, it's just men are not allowed to talk about it other than in that context of, I'm sorry you're going through postpartum, or oh, my partner's going through postpartum and it's been challenging. Um, and yeah, I think there's a lot of different reasons why it happens. I think that we I like to just look at our instinct and know that, as much as we're conscious minded individuals, we're driven by instinct. That's really a, what has allowed our race to evolve. um, so you know I think that what's some of your experience? I know you've done a little bit of research here on it, and why do we have postpartum? Where is this coming from?
Well, I did a show on postpartum depression for Lifetime Television. So I do have a lot of scientific researched information that pertains to why women go into depression. And so the dynamic that plays out is purely hormonal, and we're as women, when you get into about to have a baby, you've just suddenly conceived, suddenly there's a change of hormones and you become extremely sensitive. And the reason that happens is because your senses need to be so switched on if you're out in the wild. Say you're out in the wild and you don't have your man because he's off to hunt a tiger or some animal, and you happen to be by yourself. A woman needs to have that switched on sensitivity to sense what is dangerous to her. So she becomes very ultra sensitive. And if somebody comes into her sphere, like I actually told my father in law, Jeff, when I was pregnant, when you come into the room and you are 6 feet to 10 feet from me, it feels like you're actually touching me or like even almost inside of me. I know that sounds weird, but that's how sensitive a woman gets. And it depends on the person's energy, of course, but he has a very like outward energy, if you know Jeff. And so, I told him that to be helpful for him so that he could understand where he needs to stand in the room so that I feel comfortable. And I know that's really weird, but I think it's helpful for men if you tell them exactly the boundary. Then they're like, okay, I get it. I'll stand over here and, you give me the sign and I'll just leave the room. So that worked out really well.
Yeah.
But that sensitivity is crucial for survival. And then once she gets into the postpartum, of course, she goes through all kinds of changes because she's making a human being with her cells. And of course, yours are donated in there too. It's not like you had nothing to do with it, but her body starts like leaching from like calcium and all these things. And our memory centers become like completely vapid. We have this connection. It's an endocrine brain connection, actually. And so it's not like there's all that stuff happening down below. It's not just ovarian. It's literally our brain and our reproductive organs communicate. And so this brain endocrine connection is what's happening for women. So it's super scientific. And so she's going through a lot of changes and she's not understanding what's happening to her. So that throws her off like emotionally. Plus, there's a rush of all these hormones. And there's so many systems that are part of this endocrine brain connection. And so her body is physically changing chemically throughout pregnancy and then after. And so she loses her memory centers, and that can happen for a long, long time because her estrogen is dropping. And as a woman goes through menopause, she starts to drop her estrogen, and at certain times it's surging. So there's this dichotomy with cortisol, which is like the stress hormone. When that goes up, it pushes estrogen down. And so if you're stressed out because you're not sleeping, because you have a baby, because this is all new and you're not sure what's happening with your husband because he's freaking out. Men do freak out even though they love their children. There's a freak out, and I'll tell you my husband's experience. He's a loving guy, but there's that. So the stress level for a woman goes up, and this only happens for women. It's a very different thing what happens with the brain endocrine connection. And so her estrogen is slipping down at certain times and rising up depending on those stress levels too, and sleep. So she's got a lot of things going on. And for men, the main thing is testosterone. That is their natural hormone. They have a lot of other, they have oxytocin and, all of that comes into play too. But for a man, his testosterone levels throughout his life are continually on the rise. And then when he gets to a certain point in older age, it's just a very small dip. Whereas for women, it literally like goes up and then it goes down. And then with more cortisol, it like really goes down. So she's going through these up and downs, which you will see her act out emotionally during this time. And so a woman thinks to herself, am I crazy? And if she doesn't have a pack of women around her, like in the tribes, she will start to doubt herself and go inward and start becoming depressed and feel ashamed. And all these things are happening without her really completely rationalizing it. So that's why when I got pregnant, I knew, because I did all this research for that Lifetime show, that I needed to grab all the women in my prenatal yoga class and say, hey, we're getting together with our babies. We're forming this little like children's baby group. And it got me through. But not a lot of women don't know that. They don't do they're not doing a show on postpartum depression to begin with, so they don't know. But I don't know if you want to jump in here. I'll tell you Erin's story after, if you want to, if there's anything you want to reflect on with that.
I I I think that that's so wonderful, and I definitely see that direct relation. I think something else that my partner experienced or told me was that she went on antidepressants, and oftentimes she was more angry in the mornings. And she said, that's because of the antidepressants make my cortisol levels low in the morning. So I should go and get exercise or do something to burn that off. And so it's in perfect alignment of what you're saying with the cortisol levels and the estrogen. I think that's very fascinating. I kind of thought into it as, the effects could be related to not getting the exercise and doing stuff that obviously after a few months of not being able to exercise because you're in recovery, and that's going to play a role in it. I think that whenever you end up on the couch not getting exercise, that you have a tendency to get a little bit more depressed. And then also just kind of like wondering into the idea of like how to overcome that, or the desire of overcoming that is to be making more humans, to make a baby. So I thought maybe that played some sort of instinctive role in why it happens. You're talking about the chemical, the reason of what is happening, and then there's this other instinctual like why. And I think there's some of that goes through of like, in a relationship, if your partner's happy, you have this baby, and then you have this lull, and then the postpartum comes around, and it's just like, well, what do you want to do? Like as a partner, I felt really trapped. Like there was very little I could do. I felt like I was doing so much already, and then to have my partner not being happy, and I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. So
Would you like, yeah.
that was definitely through. Yeah. No, give it to me. What should I have done? Give me
Okay,
some advice.
so here's the thing. You are one man, and she is looking to you to do everything to fulfill whatever it is that her needs are during that time. And when you think of back to the days when we were in tribes, the woman who had the baby had the entire tribe of women to do all those things, so she could lie there, like doing whatever she needed to do, getting fanned or fed, you know, um, because she's just been through this amazing, beautiful experience and exhausting experience, and her body, depending on her age, needs to heal. So for one man to do all those things is too much, especially if you're working. I mean,
Oh,
you have to go to work, and then as soon as you come back, she's like, I need like whatever it is, because I've been just like dying here, because she doesn't have like a dozen or 2 dozen women to do those things that normally should be done. I had a midwife, and she came to do some things, and then she brought other women to just, I mean, like wash my underwear, like, or like, I know that's kind of gross, but like do things that were like so only a mother would do, like just change your sheets or wash the dishes, or um, make food too. But there were so many things that when you're in that just after birth time, your energy is so drained because you're also breastfeeding. And imagine
yeah.
making food out of your breasts. Like you have to actually take the energy from your body to create this super nutritious food. And that baby wants it all the time, which is beautiful. But every time you make that and you feed it, it drains you. And so you're ravenous for food, so you can't make food fast enough for yourself because you're just like pouring out all this nutrition into the baby. And then the baby is nursing every couple hours, so you have zero sleep. You're like so in a fog because we know sleep deprivation can cause craziness too. And then if you're looking for your husband to do all those things the tribe did, there's no way. And so he's going to go crazy. So what happened with Aaron, and Aaron is a good guy, you know, he's like an amazing husband, super thoughtful. He would, I could see him wrestling with how to deal with what was going on. I was up in Wailuku Heights in Maui. I had no friends up there. All the friends that I'd made were down, like up country or somewhere else, which was far away, maybe a half hour or so. So I was by myself with one child and then two eventually, 18 months apart, or 15 months apart. But anyway, so he would want to come home after work, hard day at work, kayaking, ocean tour guide, and he wouldn't though, because he needed to take time for himself for that transition time so that he wouldn't be just handed the baby immediately. So he would call me wanting to do the right thing from Home Depot. And he would be walking the aisles, not necessarily needing to buy anything, but he would walk the aisles just to decompress. And at first I was like, why is he not coming up? And then of course, I'm always like, I get the reaction and then I step back and I go, what is he needing out of this? Where is his mental capacity where he needs to be there? Because I know I'm giving him always the benefit of the doubt that there is a motivation that is pure behind it. You know, self-preservation or helpful to himself so he can help us. And that was the case. He couldn't help me and the baby if he wasn't in the right mindset. So I was like, okay, cool. Go to Home Depot or go surf or whatever you need to do. I can hang on for like another 2 hours knowing that when you come home, you're going to be ready. You're going to be like, give me that baby. Let me do whatever it is. And that just acknowledgement for him took away the guilt, took away the, what am I, you know, like that internal fight of, I just feel overwhelmed. So that at least there was an understanding of, okay, you're feeling this, I get it, you know, and I'm feeling a certain way too. So where am I going to look instead of to my partner for everything? So I formed a mommy's group, like I said. I had my midwives come over. And then sometimes I'm like, I am going through the most insane phase of my life, knowing that I am and going, it's okay, it's a phase. I will get through this. Just focus on the gift that you are able to have children and that this is a gift. And yes, I'm at my wit's end at the moment, but everything is in phases and nothing lasts forever. So a mom said to me, like, who had 3 kids, she's like, you will be insane for 3 years. just
Yep.
like accept that. And I'm like, okay, there is a light, there's a demarcation of when that phase might kind of ease. So, okay, I'm just going to do this. And I signed up for it.
Yeah, I feel like there's such a problem with those modern fathers where, you know, one is we don't really like to ask for help. For myself, I'm not, I'm like, if I got this, I got this. Where I think that it's actually really important for men to, instead of try to be there with those domestic things and to help the mother, to ask for help, to come in. Mom, you know, friends, you want other people to come in and help, because I feel like the situation is that when the man's doing everything he can and the woman is in this crazed state where she needs so much, he's not getting appreciated for anything that he's doing. You know, it's
That's
like
another thing.
there's just such this, you know, I'm doing everything I can and I feel like I should get an award for it, you know,
Yes,
like
you
I am going
should.
so over and beyond. And yet instead it's just like, I need more, I need this isn't enough, you know, like hurry home and help me, you know. So I think that's really a problem. It's almost like the more you do, the more there's no amount that you can do that's enough, you know.
No.
It's like you can do everything and it's still not going to be enough, even if there was a tribe of women there. And so not to go and play the devil's advocate of like, don't help at all, but it's kind of like the more you try to help, then once you take on that responsibility and that task, that's yours to do. Okay, you're making dinner now. Like, that's going to be your responsibility and task is to make dinner, and it's your responsibility to clean up the kitchen afterwards, and you're helping bathe the older ones, so that's your job now. And I need help with laundry, where's more burp towels. It's like every time you keep taking on more responsibilities, there's more on your plate, and it's going to just never end. So then as soon as you don't fulfill one of those tasks, then it's like, then you're in the doghouse.
Hmm. I think what could really shift things is not that men just stop everything, because in the modern day we don't have the tribe,
Yeah.
but if the woman understands the concept, if she knows this concept, then she can not be, I guess it's that obligatory relationship that it's like it's of course you're here to do everything for me because you have agreed to be my husband. And so you are not obligated. If she is of that mindset of, okay, this is how things instinctively are supposed to work, that a man is supposed to go off and do his thing and be appreciated for those things, and women are actually supposed to do these things that I'm asking him for. So if he does do some of those things, then she will have this feeling of being extremely grateful. I mean, there's a gratefulness that
Yeah.
is missing. And every
Hmm.
man in the modern day should be given like awards. I mean, literally, I think that men should be given awards. You know, I mean, it's like every man is outputting so much more than he should be. I mean, and I say should in
I mean,
that how instinctively how we're built.
yeah, and I don't think that every man deserves an award, but I think that the modern fathers that are really stepping up to do all of these domestic, typically, female friend supported, family supported tasks, it's just those are the ones that are really, I feel like, under the most stress and doing the most and the least appreciated, and right there with that appreciation thing too of like regularity. It's like when somebody does something out of the regular responsibility, then you appreciate it. It's like, oh, I really appreciate that you did this for me. And then as soon as there's repetition, you lose that appreciation. And that's really where having a good relationship comes from, is just being able to recognize that and continue to show appreciation. And um, it's baffling to me because the number of times that I would just try to say appreciation to my partner, she would just, take it as, would absorb it and wouldn't respond to it. It's like, I feel like that's something that's really important, is whenever your partner thanks you or gives you verbal appreciation, to return it, and not just lavish in this, I know I deserve this appreciation, to say, you are doing such a great job too. Thank you so much for helping with this. I know it's hard on both, and it was very absent in my relationship, which makes being out of that relationship a lot easier. But yeah, it's important to appreciate your partners verbally, and if you don't think to do it on your own, whenever your partner appreciates you, give it back.
Well, a way for that to naturally happen, instead of, I think of like what you're saying as great, and to go one step further with that is, if we are motivated not by the individual tasks, like this is your job, this is my job, if we're not doing those two separate things and we see this as a shared responsibility, then when someone does something on that plate of the family responsibility, that person naturally is like, oh, thank you. Naturally, without even thinking, oh, I've got to thank that person because they're doing that and I'm doing this and I want them to thank me for my part, because it's not the 50-50, it's the 80-80. And when both people feel like, oh, that's been taken care of now. Okay, that was our shared responsibility. So I'm just like literally relieved because that was our thing to do and he just took that off my plate. So there's a difference of how we look at what we're doing. And even if it becomes regular, say it's the man cooking dinner, even if that's regular, it still could be looked at as this is something that has to happen each night for the family. So it's on our plate to do, it's on our schedule to do. So with that perspective change, there's a natural, like, wow, like that is really like, it's not even sometimes that you have to say it. They can sense, they can feel. Saying is great, which I do too, but they can feel that by you stepping in to do the next thing that's on the shared plate.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes clockwork. It's like it just, things get done, things get done. And each person feels relieved because it's our work to do together to make the family run. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the difference in how it could be in the modern day relationship. If we get out of that individual, this is your job, this is my job, and if we do 50-50, then it'll all be done. But then there's that, you're not doing my thing, so now I can't do my thing. And, like, because things
Or
depend on
or
each
or
other.
just the simple or for me, the simple reality is having more things kind of continually added onto my plate of little tasks on the daily. Then it was like I wasn't able to get ahead and take care of these other things, or to be working on the bigger picture goals. So it was just, you're drowning in dirty dishes, and here comes another load.
And I don't want to be sexist, but men aren't supposed to do those things because, not that they can't, they can, and they can every once in a while, and I appreciate when they do, but if they are taking care of the other things that they do out in the world, then someone else can do the dishes. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, they're not a back to pile up on, because when you look at who does things best in their expertise, you can see it'll be more efficient if the man doesn't do some things, if he just leaves those to the woman. And I know that sounds really sexist, but it's not. It's actually purposeful in how we're built. Like, we're able to do these things, and we can do things that the man can do, not that we can't, while we're doing a lot of these things. So that's the modern woman. We need to move forward into modern day and not just be barefoot in the kitchen. And we want to. And the man can help, but there is a finite line. And I don't give Aaron a pile of all the things that need to be done in the house, even though he can do it, because I know that even if he's sitting there on the big easy chair with his feet up and I'm doing the dishes every night, it's because he needs that time, that he's processing certain thoughts for the next day. He may be thinking, okay, what invoices do I need to do? Who do I need to text for work tomorrow? And it's not like he's just sitting doing nothing. I think there's a difference in how men and women operate. Women are just constantly moving. And so then they see the man sitting back in the chair with his feet up. They're like, nice for him, but if you are a responsible, good man, good husband, you're processing, you're thinking, you're doing your internal stuff when you're in that looking relaxed mode. And then there's a time to, like, literally relax. So women need to give men a break in this way, or an understanding, not a break, an understanding of this is how they process. And we are constantly going until we, like, literally fall over in bed. And that's okay. We have different ways. Aaron will take a nap. He's like, well, why don't you take a nap? Well, because I'm a different kind of human being. I'm a woman, and I operate differently. So, it's not like we completely understand each other, but if we look to what is innate, it tells us. Like, I think I said in the last week's show, maybe this was to you or not, like, a flower is beautiful because it is a flower. It's not trying to be a flower. It's not trying to be beautiful. It just is. So if we look at nature and we just step into what nature has given us, it's given us instructions. The flower knows what to do. It's given us instructions of what we're supposed to do, what we need to do to survive. And then there's society, sure. But I think we've forgotten a lot of that natural instinct. So to me, that's the answer. If we're looking for an answer, is to really remember what we're given as women, what we're given as men, and to honor those differences, which we're not doing right now. So in postpartum, in hormonal shifts, if we can fall into what's natural, then women will seem crazy. Women will have these things, but men, if they are not put upon, I say put upon because women do put upon things, if they're not put upon to be responsible for that, and they can just leave and let another woman hear the complaining, nagging, whatever, that's where men can just be relieved of that. They're not supposed to hear all that stuff. They're not built for that. It's not good for the relationship.
And it just makes more problems for the relationship.
It does. So I know I'm sounding sexist, but this is what naturally how we're built.
This is instinct. It's like, I think our whole society is just shifting towards this female empowerment agenda that is coming from the strong, independent women that aren't in relationships, that don't necessarily want families, and probably have a masculine energy, masculine dominant energy.
My Zoom account just used up 40 minutes.
Yeah,
So,
if you look at the stream, I actually said that to you, that don't forget about the 10-minute timer a few minutes before.
Oh, okay.
Or can
I
you see your
know.
text, or is it not there?
I didn't see it over there. Usually I do see it, but I didn't have my chat up, so I need to get my chat up.
Okay.
So, did you see the thing come on that said Zoom, like running out
Yeah.
of time?
And then like
And then I
5
forgot.
minutes, or I finished a quarter of my game, which is about 5-6 minutes, and then I
Okay, we might still be streaming now, Wyatt. I'm not sure.
we are.
We could be. Yeah, we're still streaming. Okay. All right. This is what happens when you have a limited Zoom account. All right, we'll try to get Zealous back on. Wyatt, can you close the door, please? Wyatt, can you close the door, please? Okay, let's see. Is he back? That's what we're going to do. We're going to make this part 2, and so check out the new recording when we do that. Thanks for being here.